Why, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. It's Mary Cronert from the Living Room Community Arts Studio. I am so glad to be here on this Tuesday for this live stream artist chat. We've been doing this for a long time, haven't we? It's kind of fun. I'm wondering if folks are still digging it. Let me know. If you'd like us to shake things up, we can do that too. But for now, we're going to keep on chatting. We're going to keep on connecting. And today we have another fabulous guest to introduce you to. Someone that I've only met very, very recently. Someone local to Durham region. A young entrepreneur, artist indeed, and craftsperson who, well, you know what? There's so much more to explore. I'm going to invite T on from Tears from the Moon. And so T can introduce themselves and help shed a little light on what they do, who they are, and why it's important and why it matters. Of course, one of the practices that we consider creative here at the Living Room is food making, the creation, the culture of creativity and wellness that has to do with not only the things we make from traditional or fine arts materials, the things that you tend to think of when you think about art and creativity, but also the things that we make to consume, to nourish ourselves. And nourishment can come from other things as well, like ritual or practice that helps us feel grounded, present in the world. And I feel like T is someone who has an edge on that, who might be able to shine a light on some of the things that we could do in our everyday lives to perhaps introduce new space for wellness, to ground ourselves in moments when we're feeling it, whatever it might be. Perhaps there's more magic in our lives than we're aware of in this moment. Yeah? So folks, if you haven't had a chance to follow Tears from the Moon, I definitely recommend you do. And as soon as let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can invite T on. And if you haven't had a chance to follow their Instagram, I definitely recommend that you beautiful images there. So there are fine arts practices being woven into what they do. But I often find it funny how often as artists we forget that those things are creative. Hello!
Hello!
And here you are. It is such a pleasure to have you join us here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited. Sorry, I was trying to I was able to use this little tripod thing and I was trying to get it all set up and it was falling apart on me.
Do you know, that's hilarious. I'm going to share this with you because I've been doing this for over a year and a half now. And today, for the first time in over a year and a half, I had a similar thing. My tripod was like falling over and falling apart and angling this and wonking over that way. So who knows? Maybe there's some vibe.
Those vibes today just didn't work. It said, we're going to be wonky today, you know?
But right now, all is well. Are you feeling good?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. How are you doing this afternoon, I guess?
I'm okay. I feel on days like this, I feel like, well, I don't know where you're at, but here the skies are kind of gray and there was an expectation of rain, but it hasn't happened yet. And I'm one of those people who likes a good storm. I feel like it kind of helps me.
I feel the same.
Yeah. So yeah. I feel like I'm waiting a little bit, which is a weird feeling sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like waiting for it to happen. It's just like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. But outside of that, I'm okay. Just all the normal kind of everyday things, like a little mixture of excitement to be here with you, a little bit of anxiety because of some of the things that are going on in the world and, you know, being in that transitional space, like
definitely. Yeah.
But on more than anything, just happy to be here with you.
Right. Being able to like share space and have these like conversations and take time in the middle of the day to like talk.
That's it. Yeah. And introduce you to hopefully, there's lots of hearts coming up at the side there. There's folks who are excited for you. Yeah. Well, okay. So before we get carried away with lovely conversation, can you introduce yourself in your own words to the folks who might be listening or watching?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is T. I am the producer of Tears of the Moon. I don't love saying owner because I feel like it's not something to be owned because it's so spiritual, and I feel like spirituality and like what I make is so communal and a part of Mother Earth and part of this space, and no one person can own the planet. And if anything, I'm just like taking the gifts that are given to me and making something out of it and sharing it with other people that tastes pretty good and hopefully brings smiles to people's faces. So that is essentially who I am and what I'm all about.
I love that. And you know, you right off the bat, you've touched upon something that I think a lot of artists are like a new conversation, and amongst artists who are concerned about the environment, often tapping into spirituality as well. This sense of the things that we create and the materials that we create with, the desire to be more authentic in how we do that, and how do we break away from the language that's sort of built into making a living in so many cases. It felt like it feels so corporate and about dominance, and like, so I love how people are beginning to reframe the idea of exchange. And
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I found so refreshing about you, that it's what you do is small batch, it's craft oriented. You don't feel compelled to kind of expand or grow what you're doing. Like, do those pressures ever kind of get at you a little bit?
Not like, sometimes people like will try to like impose that on me, and I'm like, that's like, I love that people want that for me, and I think that that is fantastic. But with what I make and what I do, that isn't something that can happen. Like, what I do and what I make cannot be produced in a factory. You know, like you can't do that. Like, that would be amazing if there could be a nice factory meditation where I could get a bunch of factory workers to like go outside and like sit in the moon and have a nice meditative state. But that's not something that is going to be able to happen with, you know what I mean? And to impose like that onto other people. And that would be great and that would be wonderful. But that just isn't something that can happen. And also, no two people have the same energy at all. And what I make is so much so part of who I am as a person and my energy and like my soul, that I don't want to say no one else can make it, because everyone like my syrup recipes are not hidden. I post videos of me making them. I have no issue if other people want to make them. I think that's fantastic. If you can't afford them or they can't get to you, I'm like, here's a recipe, like let's make it together. Like, I think that's fantastic. And I would love that. But what a lot of like my friends who I have given the recipe to, they say it doesn't taste the same, or it's not the same, just because it's not infused with like my energy or like my essence, because no two things are ever the same between people.
So would you feel comfortable sharing a little bit more about what you do, but also how and why you do it that way? As long as
for sure. So especially like during the pandemic, like pre-pandemic, I was very much so an on-the-go type person. I did not take a breath really ever. I was always working like 3 to 4 jobs. I was constantly like tired. But I was fine. Like, I was happy with that. I was like, go, here we go. School work. That is how I live my life. And I was totally okay with that. And I never really, like, I loved spirituality and I thought that was fantastic. And it was definitely something I wanted to do, but it was something I didn't make time for. And then with the pandemic, everything came to a halt and I was forced to sit with myself and be still, which was so scary. And honestly horrible at first. I hated it. I hated being forced to just be like, okay, like, and I had to rediscover like who I was as a person. Like, I realized I did not like know myself. And I really got in touch more with kind of the universe in itself in like a bigger sense. And it really put me in perspective with where I stand and where I sit here on this planet, and really made me kind of second guess what I'm putting out into the universe and the things I want to do and the things I want to create. And how Tears from the Moon kind of started was I was making syrup and making baked goods and just like giving them to my friends and family. I love baking. Like, that was always something I always loved doing. And I started really connecting with the moon and the moon cycles, and I found that really affected me personally. So I started kind of following that and like making things that aligned with the moon and letting it almost like charge with the moon and creating things on certain days. And I know it might sound weird to certain people, like, what do you mean it tastes better on certain days? I don't know. It does. My dad is in no way as kooky as I am. He is very Christian man. And he started drinking my tea. He's like, oh, this actually is really good. I was like, thank you. I know. He's like, oh, this is weird. Like, okay, I guess I like it. So it does, I think, taste better. And I have the power of like, you know, like we believe what we think, but my dad, who definitely does not believe what I believe in or is in tune with the moon and is outside having incense and meditating under the moonlight and is just like watching me from the window like, okay, are you okay? He's not feeling that, but still like likes what I do. And one of my friends who runs a like box, like a monthly subscription box.
Okay.
That's based on the moon cycles. Had my syrup and was like, hey, like I want to put this in my box. And I was like, okay, but like I don't really make it for people like that. She's like, well, why not? I'm like, I don't know, I don't really want to do that. And she convinced me to start making for other people, and I ended up putting it in her box. And that's kind of how Tears from the Moon started. And they actually gave me my name, Tears from the Moon. They gifted it to me, which is such an amazing gift. Because I was actually really struggling to find a name for it. I could not figure it out, and I was talking to her about it, and they were like, I want to give you this. I feel like it's right, like this is what I want to give you. And it really fits, I think. So that's where we are today.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. And you know, just on the name, it's an extraordinarily beautiful name. And one of the things I love about it is that because it's reframing the idea of tears as well. Because I think sometimes people think of tears and crying, and this is a conversation we have in the studio Art Hiveland quite a bit, like the stigma around that release, around crying and being able to be open about that. And when I think about Tears from the Moon, what a gift that is. And of course it's nourishing. It's something that releases, and there's just so many layers to that name. It's beautiful. Yeah. What a wonderful collaborative, like co-creative moment that you have with them. Or do they still have their box business?
They do. They're called The Moon and I follow them as well. Fantastic. They do still have their box. Right now, actually, they are traveling to kind of get re-inspired and redo like what their box is, which I think is fantastic. They have an amazing box. I love it.
Okay.
So great. But recently I had reached out to them, something that I thought was really divine timing, you reaching out to me, and like your organization reaching out to me and talking, such weird divine timing, because I was trying to figure out a way to like post about some changes I'm making to the Tears of the Moon, and making it a little bit more accessible. And I know we spoke about this on the phone, in adding some more things and expanding on just being like a syrup company, and making like ritual bath salts and Florida water. So because they gave me the name, obviously like they gave me the name, like I can do what I want with this child that is like my child, but I still wanted to like let them know like this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want to do, how do you feel about that? And the phone kind of went silent, and they were like, I want you to know that that's really weird, because when I had first thought of the name Tears from the Moon, I wanted it to be an expansion of their child, like the Moon and I, and to be almost like a bath type situation, like a cleansing pre-ritual thing for like the moon.
Wow.
So like they are really excited that I'm doing that, because it's like something that they had thought about but they weren't really ready to do. Like they're still very much so focused on their first baby, that I'm now also going to add on to that. So that was very
that
interesting.
spirit. It's a, yeah, that gorgeous spirit of co-creation when people can come together. What it seems like is there's no, like there's a lovely dialogue. There's no anxiety around kind of like, oh, it's mine. I have to hold on to this, which seems to often come in like traditional forms of creating sometimes, or like that's a legacy that a lot of us have inherited. Let's say that,
Yeah.
right? We've been taught to kind of hoard our creativity, to hold on to things, uh, to have anxiety around collaborations and losing control, that whole idea
Yeah.
of losing control. And one of the things that is inspiring me about the time we're in, which has to do, I think, like that acknowledgement of, you know, the impact of the pandemic is really important because it has forced us to kind of, or given us an opportunity to look
Mm-hmm.
inside and challenge a lot of those things. So I'm seeing more people entering into conversations that are about sharing and abundance and support for one another for the benefit of all, which is really, really hopeful. That's so inspiring. And you're a part of that. That's awesome.
Right? It feels so good. Like it's really exciting to be like a part of it and like entering into this community of people and being able to connect with so many different like creative individuals like within this
Mm.
community. It has been really nice.
And it's, again, that idea of creativity. I remember when we were talking, you were worried there's a little bit of, you know, concern because it's not necessarily traditional fine art what you do.
Yeah.
And for our community, it's like,
Yeah.
that's not cool. I'm not an artist, but you absolutely are. And so far, it's like the conversation we've been having. I think if you weren't aware of like what exactly you did, what you made, what you created, every single artist can relate to these experiences. And I think this is resonating with so many people right now. Um, Now, I want to come back to the lovely things you make and share with the world and how you share those with the world. But I also, if you, again, if you're comfortable, are you able to share a little bit more about your spiritual practice, which I also consider a cultural practice as well. So I
Yeah,
feel like, yeah.
for sure. So I personally, beginning of pandemic, I started like kind of the more recent like few years pre-pandemic. I started more so identifying and calling myself a witch, but I didn't really feel like that label 100% fit with me.
Hmm.
I've always really loved spirituality, and I really loved like connecting with the earth and connecting with the moon. I've always felt a very strong like connection with it.
Yeah.
um, I just feel very drawn to it. Like I don't really know how to explain it, but I always just like I feel like very like warm and like fuzzy when I'm sitting outside under the moonlight, like being able to like see it. You know,
Yeah.
like I can just, it makes me feel really good like being a part of it. And throughout the pandemic, I was really able to connect and be more open with my family about letting them know, like, yeah, like I identify with witchcraft. And coming from a very Christian family,
Yeah.
they'd known I didn't identify as Christian for a very, very long time. Like that was something they knew.
Yeah.
And they weren't like angry at me or anything. So that was good. But they're more so like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And then I kind of explained it to them and started doing more like into crystal work and doing a lot of like herbal stuff. And it was a lot of baking, so they kind of loved that aspect of it. They're like, I don't really care if you're gonna make me food, so cool. But more when I started doing things like on the porch and doing a lot of like meditation outside and charging my crystals or making like
Yeah.
moon water and like drinking it to kind of nourish my body with it, is when my grandma actually, she's my family's Jamaican. She called me an obeah, which in Jamaica and a lot of Caribbean places, an obeah is not a witch, but like for, I would say like more colonialism like terms, it
Mm.
would be like an equivalent, but not
Okay.
really. Okay, if that makes sense. Like to
Yeah.
people who don't know what it is, I would say that's an equivalent, but different. Same, different fonts, if that makes sense. Okay, like we're in a different font family, like, and not the same, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And that actually kind of felt more like home to me.
Mm.
So then I kind of dove into that a little bit more on the internet, but there's obviously not a lot of things on the internet about that, because in the Caribbean, women who are obeyas are not really on Facebook making Facebook groups, because that's not how it's passed down.
Yeah.
It's passed down through like oral traditions. And then I got into a lot of like Rootworker and Hoodoo Facebook groups and people online, and a Rootworker actually felt very much so like home to me. Being obviously my family in Jamaica, and obviously from time back they were brought there as slaves coming from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So I will never actually know like what tribe or anything I came from, unfortunately. So I'll never actually know like what my lineage is. But that Rootworker really feels like home to me, and that's more so what I identify as, and what I'm currently right now trying to like learn more about and figure out and manage through this. And I think with the moon, it actually makes a lot of sense why I felt like that was home, because that, like the moon cycles and like root working, that would make a lot of sense. Like following like the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the sun, like people in tribes, like that's what they did. So it all kind of felt like it fit for me, and I felt really good about that.
It's got to, I love how you're referring to it as it felt like you were like coming home a little bit, like the feeling was right. It just felt better than anything else. What has the journey been like discovering more about this cultural legacy that you have that feels a part of you?
Honestly, it's been sad.
Mm.
And it's been a feeling of like sadness and happiness all at the same time, because I do feel like I'm getting more home, but there's always this kind of like I'll never know kind of feeling, because of like colonialism, and knowing that I'll never actually know, and knowing that that part of like my lineage is gone, and I'll never be able to be a part of that, you know? And like I lost out on generational knowledge.
Yeah.
So like that part of it, like it's really hard. And one of the great things and the beauty of witchcraft or root working is something called shadow work. And that's kind of facing that and like being sad and crying and feeling that emotion and feeling at home with that emotion and healing it, and healing that work for your ancestors and for yourself as well. So you're not continuously like passing that on to the rest of your family, because generational trauma does affect you, and we know that even scientifically, like you know, like that trauma is passed down, whether you know that trauma or not, that trauma is passed down. So being able to like heal that for people to go on past me is also feels very like empowering. Absolutely. It the same way, like I'm literally like thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cry. And like learning things and talking about it has been really hard, but like knowing that I need to do the work to face it and to find myself and find my family and be who I am meant to be spiritually.
To become everything that you already are, but to have that sense of awareness and fulfillment so you can truly own it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's extraordinary. There was a comment from someone, Lovislug, was saying it sounds like your ancestors have been talking to you all along, perhaps.
Honestly, like I feel like they always have been, because even growing up, like I think people like I never felt like an anger towards Christianity at all. I actually really loved going to church, but I never really like felt like it was home to me. I say that a lot. Like I never really felt like it was home. I love religions. I think religions are so beautiful, and I love people like coming together. Obviously, I don't love the dark sides of religions, but I think the core of religions, of like people talking and connecting together on a spiritual level and praising something and helping each other, is so beautiful. But I just never felt home there. Like I was like, okay, like this is cool. Like I like learning about it. I like the community, but I don't feel like this is where I belong. And when I started doing this, I feel so good. And when I start like making things, it feels like someone is like speaking to me, if that makes sense. Like I don't hear them, but
Yeah.
even with sorry, hold on.
No apologies necessary for nourishing tears or nourishing beverages.
Right, we're just nourishing these tears. Even when I'm like picking like herbs to make things just, like I've never heard of certain herbs before, like in my life. Sorry, 1 second. My cat's crying to go outside.
Oh, lovely kitty. Hello, kitties. Kitties are always welcome on the live streams, by the way. Always. Dogs as well.
Yeah.
We are dog and cat friendly. Other animals welcome as well, of course. Birds, fishes.
Yeah. These herbs are just like, I describe it as like yelling at me. Because it's like I see the name and like the name is just in my head over and over and over again. It'd be like last night I had bought some like burdock root in my head over and over and over again. It just like shut up. Like I see it, I hear it, I put it in my cart, it's done. And then like looking it up and like seeing the uses for it, I'm like, oh, this is actually perfect for what I need.
Wow.
Weird. You know, like I don't know, like I try actually not to read up on herbs, if that makes sense, before I start using them, because of what has been happening ever since I started my spiritual journey. Just so that way it is very authentic, and I know that it is my ancestors being like, this is what you need. So that way I don't have any like preconceived, like, oh yeah, like this is what I can use it for. Like, this is what like they're telling me I need. And that's what I'm feeling. Because I had not used burdock root before. I honestly had never used it before. I don't. And for what I needed it for that particular ritual bath, it was perfect.
Yeah. Wow. So I know, and Love a Slug too, I believe ancestral knowledge lives in the deepest part of yourself. And also, you're amazing. And you're getting a lot of love here, a lot of support. It feels like you are speaking for a lot of things that people have been waiting to hear or hoping to have acknowledged. And I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you bringing all of yourself into this conversation. I mean, you didn't have to. I appreciate it so much. And again, Kay Secord, learning from you is such a privilege. I feel the same way, the exact same way. And it inspires, it sort of sparks something else as well. I'm hoping for everyone, the sense of the opportunity each one of us has to learn and to grow, and perhaps to, connect with, those parts of ourselves that haven't been acknowledged before, whether they're ancestral or repressed. Again, like colonization hurts everyone, obviously. But for folks like myself, I carry so much unearned privilege in the world, my gender, the color of my skin, so many things that I haven't had to question as I move forward. For others, it is a deeper journey. It's something very different. And it's important to learn. It's important to listen.
And I think also like for people that are in like a similar like situation to you, like even having to face that and like look and be like, oh, like I have to now unlearn so many things that I didn't even realize were affecting life and like how we walk through life. Because even me, like I'm a Black woman, but I'm also a light-skinned Black woman, and I do look like I am half white. So I do have that privilege right there. Like I'm not half white, but I do have that privilege. And I come from like a more affluent neighborhood. I go to university. Like these are all privileges that I have that other people don't have. I have clean clothes, like those are things that I have running water. There are so many reservations like within an hour of Toronto even that don't have that privilege. So, and like being able to confront that and realize that confronting your privilege is not a woe is me thing. And it's not being like, oh, like, I'm so like, oh, it's sad. It's like, no, like, it's just saying like, there are certain things I just don't have to think about every day when I wake up that other people do, and recognizing that so that way we can help other people and build them back up so we can all be on more level playing fields.
Yeah. I see it, maybe not always, but I see it as an opportunity, that it's something exciting to encounter these edges within ourselves. And the more we can recognize those edges, the more we can grow forward from them.
Yeah.
So we can choose to be in a place of woe is me, but that doesn't serve anything. And it's
No,
not a happy
100%.
place, not a happy place to be. So, to turn that to make meaning of these experiences so that we can have
Exactly.
and create something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. That to
Yes,
me
100%.
is potential.
Yeah.
And when I hear you, like, this journey of discovery and ownership and connection, like deep connection with things that seem to surprise you, that like being in the grocery store and thinking this is what I have to have. Are there any moments where, like, you feel overwhelmed by this, or what is that like? Does it feel like a responsibility that you have to take forward?
I think there are definitely like moments where, like, especially in the past couple months, where I have felt very overwhelmed. Like when we talk about like this, like the zero waste movement, like me like wanting to be eco-friendly, but then having to recognize that because I have so much privilege,
Yeah.
being zero waste is very simple for me to do. But being zero waste, especially right away, is very expensive for a lot of people. And shipping zero waste products can be very expensive. And having people access my products that to be zero waste can be very expensive. So if I choose to have things that are in like completely like glass mason jars, I'm now eliminating and saying that certain people in the population can't have them now, which I don't want to do,
And is that because of the expense associated, that
Yeah.
like the expense becomes a barrier?
Yeah,
for
exactly.
access?
And
Okay.
I don't want like there to be a barrier for access,
Yeah.
And I think that has definitely been very overwhelming for me, and pricing things has been very overwhelming for me. Like having so many conversations like within like my friend group and my family, like talking about it. And like I think a lot of people who have small businesses and like pricing what you're worth, 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I want to do that, but then it's also like I want to be accessible, which is so hard to do at the same time, and like trying to like figure out a system where I can price what I'm worth at the same time as being accessible, has been very difficult and very overwhelming, and something that I am still trying to navigate and figure out right now. So
Yeah. And I imagine with the work you do, because it is so customized and it's so specific, you were saying, to your energy, your spirituality, the intention in that given moment as well. It's not something that is assembly line produced, definitely.
Yeah.
So you're not only considering the costs of the materials that go into the project, of the time you spend doing it, but also the energy the energy exchange with it as well. I imagine that there's a cost in that as well. Like I imagine a satisfying, purposeful cost.
Yeah.
But something that needs to be included. This is like it's a conversation that I hear so many makers having, which again is amazing that we're having these conversations now. What have you found helps on that journey with, finding the balance for right now where you're at in this moment between, being able to be ethical, accessible enough, but still taking care of yourself and being able to do things in the way that you want to do? Has there been anything that you've discovered during this process, during this time?
Honestly, like talking to other creators has been really helpful. I think when you like close yourself off a lot, it doesn't help, because then you're like an island of one person. And especially on my page, I use the term we very often, so that very much so confuses people, because it is just usually me I'm talking about. But I always use the term we because usually like I have friends that like help me take photos, and I have people that I usually like consult and like talk with about certain things. And yes, I'm the person that like makes the syrup and is usually like packages things and dropping them off, but like my sisters sometimes will like help me like make labels. So although they're not like officially part of my team and they don't like have a responsibility to like, you need to come help me make labels from da 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 da, I still want to include everyone that helps me when I like make a post or post things, and acknowledge that I am getting help from my community when I do things. So I think that honestly that has been really good, and being able to like reach out and just like talk to people and ask questions and not being fearful of that. Because I think it can be really intimidating at first, being like, can you help me?
Asking for what we need, that is a journey I think so many of us are still on. I'm still on it, like finding the comfort and the confidence to be able to say, no, this is a good thing. Being able to recognize what you need, then reach out for that support, and then accept 100%. That support. Yeah, absolutely.
It can be very like intimidating, but thankfully I have really good, I have a really good support system. There's a really cool crystal shop in Durham. They're called Spirit Roots Company. I think they're on here right now.
Oh, cool.
The team there, they have given me like so much help with everything. I love them. The universe sent them to me to help. So they're wonderful. And like my friend from the moon and I have given me so much help, and so many other people.
Because you're amazing. That's what they say. Because you're amazing.
Yeah. And so many of my other friends have like been able to like come and communicate with me and help me do like research on things, and like my sisters being able to like help me. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, it's knowing that you're not alone. It sounds like, I mean, that's something that we can keep reminding ourselves. I think we're not alone in this process. And you've definitely found a community of folks whose views and visions and values and passions are in alignment with your own. And I think whenever you find those individuals, that's like, how can you not feel love? How can you not feel that net of support around you?
Yeah.
Allowing you to take risks too, the creative risks, like moving into this new direction with, so what was it? Can you explain a little bit more about the baths that
so it's like a ritual bath. I'm not here. What's on here? I made like a really big jar, and I had been gifting them to like my friends. It's like a bath soak. This one was a self-love bath soak, so made with the intention of kind of giving people some self-love. A lot of my friends through the past few weeks had been going through some struggles, so I thought I would make one with the intention of kind of giving them some love. So I like combined different like herbs and oils with some like sea salt and Epsom salt. I just put it in here, charge it up with the different intentions, and I recommend putting it in like tea bags. I am going to be having an option to like where I put them in tea bags for you, or if you just want it in like a container where you can like put it in, like I personally at home, I have a special like a reusable, the tea bag, the little metal thingy. What are they called? I don't know what they're called.
I can't remember what it is. The tea thingy, the steeping thingy,
the steeping thingy, whatever that name is.
Diffuser? Diffuser? Is that what it is?
Oh,
the tea thingy. The steeping.
Someone, if you're watching, you know exactly what it is. So it's fine. Whatever that tea thing is, just so it doesn't like go down your drain. Some people like to just like sprinkle it in, but I do not take responsibility for if that goes down your drain. That has nothing to do with me. A couple of my friends have like one of those fish mesh things that they'll just like scoop it up out of.
Oh, okay.
So if you want like having to like bathe in like the rose petals or like the hibiscus petals, then you can do that. But I would scoop it up. I would not put it down your drain because I don't want that.
Filter, diffuser, safety first, plumbing.
Safety first, your plumbing. Because plumbers are expensive. Plumbers are expensive, and that diffuser thing is like $5. So, so I'm probably going to because I just put in my order for a couple of more of like herbs that I'm going to pick up on Wednesday. I'm going to have a full moon ritual bath out.
Wow.
Sometime next week for people, most likely people in Ontario, like Durham area, just because the full moon is going to be happening in a couple of weeks. That's probably who's going to be getting them. But that I'm really excited about because I can ship those out, and it's not like super expensive to ship them out in like the polyfilm.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
I imagine.
And if people do want them in like mason jars, then they can have that option. If they are like low zero waste people, then they totally have that option. And I have like those little peanuts that dissolve.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
So it sounds like you have one of the ways you've dealt with, you know, the struggles with accessibility, like financial accessibility, but also the ethical concerns around what you create and why you create it in the first place. There are options that you have. So there's a sliding scale of things that people can ask for.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you can accommodate those things. It's lovely.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful way to work with it, just to, as while you can, if you can, to work with the individuals and then their needs as much as possible.
Yeah. It's been really nice. And even like the people like within Durham who have been getting syrups still, we've been doing like refills, which have been really good, because there are people that are like zero waste and they have like, we have like a 2-bottle system. So like I have one of their bottles and then I'll just like switch it out and then they just give it to me washed, and then I wash it again when I get it, but they just give it to me washed already, but I just kind of double wash it and then I just refill it for them. We switch it when they're ready. So that's been really nice. But again, that's like a kind of Durham only thing, unfortunately, because I can't really do that shipping out. So
the shipping costs become a little prohibitive for some people. Some people not so much, though. There might be people out there who can't afford, are happy. Are happy.
Happy to just do the 2-bottle shipping system, which again, fine with me if you want to do that.
So. You heard it here first, folks. A lovely thing. Now, can we revisit something that I'm curious about? Because again, I come from a fairly religious background myself. So I can, when you're talking about your family observing and wondering and what's going on here and things like that, that rings a bell for me as well. And I also stepped away from that faith. When you talk about like ritual and things like that, and I know when we were talking earlier on the phone, there's a sense of magic and what magic means, because when people think about, you know, I know like with like the craft, Wicca or witchcraft or root workers, perhaps there's a sense of the occult that often comes into play and all of those things, and this idea of magic, and which is not the case at all. What do you mean when you talk about ritual? Why is ritual important to you?
So ritual, I feel like ritual has been like very much so like demonized with people, and like when you say ritual, they're thinking of like sacrifice, give me your blood. Like, no, I'm really just gonna like take a bath, put like have like a crystal beside me, and like think about my day and like say like I will love myself, I have good intentions. Like that is what I mean by like ritual, like having candles and like and having like good intentions, because everything like that the earth, or you know, people who are religious, that believe in God or whichever God you believe in, everything, as I'm sure people know, like has a purpose. You know, like everything like pre-modern medicine has like healing properties and has like a correlation that like helps with certain things, you know, like very like natural medicine, and like helps with like love or healing, and honey to help with a sore cold, like, you know, sore throat. I mean, not a sore cold, sore throat. That is magic, you know, like that is what I consider magic. Like, I think that is so magical to me. Like the fact that bees are able to do that, like I think that is so wild. Like that is what I mean by magic. There's a lot of like color coordinations with like my rituals. Like I do a lot of like lighting candles for purposes, and that also happens in a lot of like other religions. Like people wear certain colors for like certain things. So that to me is magic, and that to a lot of other people, like in spiritual communities, in root working, in like I know like a lot of Wiccan practices, that is magic. Like lighting a black candle for protection, or if you, even if you aren't like a witch at all, if you're going to have like some people over and you want to have some good intentions, it's good to like light a white candle by the door to like bring in some good energy, or to, you know, that is like what I mean by that.
So an appreciation and attunement with certain things that are of meaning to you, that help you feel connected and grounded. And
exactly.
particularly with the natural world, this earth that supports us and is the reason why we can do what we do and exist in the first place.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
And like looking that up and putting that into your everyday, because like so many different herbs have so many different uses. And I know like what I have been taught is that like rosemary, that has something that has so many different uses and practices. And speaking into your herbs, meaning like, this is what I need from you, girl. Like I'm using you for protection, and like being like, that is what I need. So like talking to them, like I talk to my live plants. I still talk to my dried plants and let them know like I'm speaking an intention of what I need from them. And that's what I do for like my syrups, my ritual baths. I like put my intentions into everything that I'm doing, as well as like clearing my energy space and like clearing myself and putting myself into a state where I'm focused on what I'm doing, and just being present.
You know what's so amazing about that? This is the exact same conversation we have oftentimes in the studio space or in the virtual art hive space with creating art as well. This sense of the importance of intention and feeling like using the creative process to ground yourself, to find a way to be present, even if it's only for a moment, and to ensure that like you're asking a question of what you're creating in a way and trusting that it, you know, what emerges from it will respond to you and be of meaning to you. It's a like a relationship, a conversation you're having.
Exactly.
And each one of us has the opportunity to choose what intentions we put into what we're working on. So it has a direct, I feel like there's so much that's resonating here between what you're doing, which is absolutely an art form, if you don't mind me saying.
Thank you.
And you know, what we consider more traditional, I suppose, or, you know, art creation or creativity. There's so much overlap there. That's extraordinary. So it's when you talk about the magic in every day, there's absolutely magic everywhere if we're available to it, if we can notice
like,
it.
Tapping in,
Yeah.
You know, like the colors of like the sky, like I notice so many more things like now that I have like become a lot more spiritual, like taking time to like look at the sun and look at like the sunset and just like taking in those colors, or like taking in like, you know, like stopping to smell the roses, like actually putting that into practice. And loving like nature and loving the creatures other than humans on this planet, you know? And you don't have to be like someone who is vegan or vegetarian to love animals and like be respectful of animals and respect them on the planet, you know, like whether you are like a witch or any religion at all. I think respecting a god's animals and things on this planet are so important. And that being a spiritual person, it has really put that into perspective for me. Like I always loved animals like before, but I really now like take the time to like stop and like look at them and like connect with them, if that makes sense. Like I'm just like, hi. Hello, little squirrel, like how you doing? And it's been really nice.
I think of course, why wouldn't you want to live that way?
Yeah.
I feel do you think how much of that has come from like that learning? I know some of it's obviously it was there before the pandemic, but this last period of time, how much of this have you discovered about yourself during this last year and a half?
I would say like 90% of it. I think that pre-pandemic, and even I think now, a lot of people don't know who they are genuinely, and are afraid to be alone with themselves and are afraid of the stillness and the quiet. And we, especially now, like we are so preoccupied with so many different things, and like we have our phones, like we are constantly doing something. The only time that we are ever like still is when we're sleeping. You know, like when's the last time like you just saw a patch of grass that was nice and just laid down in it? You know, like Now I'll like see and be like, oh, that looks comfortable. I'm just gonna lay down for a second. You know, like if I'm free that day, like I genuinely like, you know, like I'm not supposed to like hang out with my friend until later on, or I don't have work that morning. I try now to consciously make time and make space, like even if it's just for an hour, to do nothing. Like,
Some there was someone I was talking with who used the term protecting that time. So building it in so that you know you have it for those of us who work, or like for those of us who can make, you know, it's so easy to fall back into those old habits. And now that we find ourselves in this period of transition where things are moving back to, I don't like the when people talk about things going back to the way they were, like it's normal. I'm not
yeah.
so, I don't know about that. I don't want things to go back to the way they were.
I honestly don't think anything will ever go back to completely normal. Like, I don't think they can.
Hmm.
I think that we've been, I don't want to say like still, but we've been still for so long. I think that things are going to be very different. I think there's going to be like a new normal of like what life is. And I think even like looking at it from like a capitalistic sense, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of businesses like now know that people can work from home and like are a lot more productive actually from home than they are at work.
Yeah.
Like they get a lot more done because you don't like talk to Becky in the cubicle for half the day. Like you're literally sitting at home just like doing work and are working later.
Hmm.
Um, which I actually think is a little bit scarier because now people are going to be so confined to their like their homes and their home offices
Hmm.
that they're not going to go outside even more, which is so sad.
Well, perhaps there's an opportunity moving forward to discover and create a new balance for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
To, if we can recognize our own agency within this, then maybe we can create a new way, create new structures and boundaries for ourselves that are actually healthful and helpful for ourselves,
Yeah.
rather than just doing what you mentioned, before, just racing, doing all the things all at once.
Yeah.
I can relate to that as well. I'm sure so many of the folks listening and watching can.
Mm.
Maybe there's an opportunity to still ourselves and ask ourselves, what is it that we want
Yeah.
moving forward? What kind of
Mm-hmm.
world do we want to move into and
Exactly.
be
Or
a
even
part
like
of?
what is it we don't want? You know, like I think sometimes that could be
That's,
like
yeah.
even easier for people to just like what is it you don't like?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
You know?
great starting point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the time has passed so quickly. I feel like I could chat
Right.
with you for hours and hours and hours. There's only a few minutes left. Um, but perhaps that's a good place to, like, one of the places to, settle in this conversation. And I love Laura Gravel, sorry, I apologize, saying just a reminder, coming back to your inner child is so important. And if you can have that playfulness and that connection that a child has with nature, just to foster that, that is a beautiful thing. Um, but let's say, moving out of this period of transition or into whatever awaits us, do you have anything that you'd like to share, or anything sort of things you'd like to leave with us to reflect upon as we move forward, about what your hopes or dreams are for the next period of community?
Um, I think my next period, like what I would like our community to
Mhm.
reflect on, like especially just like kind of like Laura kind of touched on it,
Yeah.
is very much so like coming back to our inner child, like as a society,
Mm.
and having more of a childlike wonder in life and starting to love life and looking at the world from a brighter place, you
Mm.
know, and being more open to other people, nature, and starting to seek out more still like opportunities, like even like within your neighborhood and going on like nice nature hikes, not just for exercise, but for
Mm.
the stillness and for the quiet and for the connection and connecting with yourself, connecting with your own personal like spirituality and starting to love life from a more childlike sense and escaping up from a place of not being able to love something because you're too old, because you're never too old to have fun and love life and blow bubbles in the middle of a field or playing a kiddie pool.
Or to ask questions, to be
Exactly.
curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to not feel shame for having fun, like have a water balloon fight at the age of 50 with your friends. Do that. Like, that sounds fun. Like have a water gun fight with any children that you have or with people on your street. Like, do things for the fun of it and not to get something out of it and not to even have a purpose for doing it. Just do it for the sake of doing it.
My heart is very full right now.
I'm so glad.
Okay, yes, all right. We will stay in connection, hopefully. And I would love to be kept update about everything that's happening with
Of
you
course.
and your wonderful business and your spirit of engagement and everything, all the things. And yes, so many people are appreciating your presence here and your knowledge. And I have to thank you. Huge shout out to Remember Breathe, to Caitlin, for helping me connect with you in the first place. This has been such an extraordinary gift. So I suppose we should wrap up on, if people want to learn more about you, if they want to connect with you, to learn, to practice, to purchase, to support what you do, where do they find you? How do they do that?
You can follow Tears from the Moon. We have a lot of things kind of coming up in the next week. I'm actually doing like a little mini Tarot Tuesday that's going to be happening right after this, which is super fun. I do a little 3-card reading and you just kind of slide and see if it fits for you. I'm really kind of focusing on being a lot more engaged with the audience and kind of putting more magic into everyone's everyday life, especially in the next coming weeks. So give us a follow so you can like stay up to date and learn some fun stuff.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate Caitlin for messaging me.
Yay, I do too. Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And have a fabulous Tarot Tuesday.
Thank you.
We'll see each other again sometime soon, I'm sure.
Yes, please. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was beautiful. I think I really needed that. Thank you so much to T from Tears from the Moon. I know, I have a feeling that will be perhaps some co-creation, some collaboration in the future with the Living Room Community Art Studio and Tears from the Moon. Watch this space. And of course, watch Tears from the Moon space. If you don't like them, head on over to their Instagram page, give them a like, give them a follow, so you can keep up to date about all the wonderful, beautiful things they're doing, how they're doing it, and why they're doing it, because I think all of us can benefit from that sense of connectivity, nurturing that sense of connectivity and attunement, and strengthening our relationship with ourselves, but also with the natural world, so that we can have a better world moving forward. Yeah? Does that make sense? That's where hope lives, I think. So thank you so much from T and Tears from the Moon for reminding me about that. I needed that today. All right. Well, until we can connect and create with one another again in person, I really look forward to connecting with you right here online. If you're around on Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m., hop on over to the Living Room's Facebook page and join us for a virtual Art Hive live stream on Facebook. And of course, tonight we have a wellness art group Zoom at 7 p.m. that you can find more information about on our Facebook page as well, where you can work with the lovely Caitlin and Kat V on arts activities that are just about strengthening your relationship with self and helping, finding wellness in alternative but really enjoyable ways. Okay, so thank you so much to everyone for joining us. We'll see you again real soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye.